It's that fun time of the year where Major League Baseball's trade deadline is in full effect. A bunch of moves have been made. A bunch of rumors are out there. We're going to break it all down and see what has transpired in really about the last 24 hours. Who's made moves, who's still looking, and what's all going on. Let's go. Really, this all got started before the All-Star game when the Royals picked up reliever Hunter Harvey from the Nationals for their number 2 prospect, Caden Wallace, and the 39th overall pick in the draft. Now, Hunter Harvey has looked pretty good this year, 4.20 ERA, but a 3.14 FIP, which is very impressive, 95 ERA plus. But what's the big thing for the Royals? He's had 50 strikeouts in 45 innings. He brings swing and miss stuff to the Royals, and they desperately need that in their bullpen. I don't expect much more from the Royals because they don't have a deep farm system. Caden Wallace was their number 2 prospect, and he went to the Nationals in this trade. Wallace is very highly thought of. 282 average, 350 on base, 427 slug at Double-A this year. As well, they added catcher Caleb Lameth, who was the draft pick the Nationals used in the trade, 39th overall in the draft. He's out of Cal, so I think the Nationals did pretty good adding Caden Wallace to their system as well. We'll see if the Royals can make a playoff push with Hunter Harvey. A very interesting one that came about. The Arizona Diamondbacks picked up lefty reliever A.J. Puck from the Marlins. Now, Puck's numbers are kind of skewed because he had a really poor start this season when the Marlins wanted to use him as a starter. That did not work out. But since he's gone into the reliever role once again, Puck has been scored on only in 5 appearances, giving up 7 earned runs at that time. He is just not giving up runs. He's been very, very effective. Definitely a high leverage reliever. And guys like Andrew Saalfrank, who's been hurt, Joe Mantiply, who hasn't been as strong as last year. The D-backs need a lefty reliever. Pair him with Kevin Ginkel, Paul Sewald. A.J. Puck is going to be very strong for the D-backs the rest of the way. Now, going back the other way is a couple prospects. One very interesting one, Davison De Los Santos, who's at AAA with the D-back system and is doing very, very well. De Los Santos has a 926 OPS in AAA with 14 home runs. Now, he's going to be the number 4 prospect now for the Marlins. The interesting thing with De Los Santos, so we don't really know a ton about the power yet because he was playing at AAA Reno and the ball really flies in the Pacific Coast League. So we're going to have to wait a little bit to figure out what De Los Santos is as a true prospect at the Major League level, but expect him to be up in the system for the Marlins later this season, probably in September. The other prospect becomes the Marlins' 19th ranked prospect, and that is Andrew Pinter, who's hitting .919 at high A ball, but hit only .526 now as he was moved up to Double-A. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do the rest of the way. Now, the big one that landed last night compared to what I'm filming right now, Randy Arozarena to the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners had to get a bat. Arozarena really fills that need. I still think the Mariners, in fact, need another bat, and they look to be very, very active at this deadline. Easily the most active team so far. Arozarena will probably play left field. Julio Rodriguez is currently on the injured list. The Mariners desperately need him back as well. They need to get going or they are going to be missing out on the playoffs. The Astros are threatening to run away with this division once again. So the Mariners have got to get themselves going. Going back the other way, I actually think the Rays have been very sneaky in this place. They always are in these trades. Outfielder Aiden Smith is a very interesting prospect to me. He was hitting .872 OPS at A-ball, 9 home runs, 42 RBIs. He is a 4th-round pick last year. He becomes the Rays' number 12 prospect. Now, Smith, you see here, 4th-rounder. He's probably more like a 2nd-round talent, but signability concerns pushed him down the draft. The Mariners got him signed, but it looks like the Rays are going to be the team that benefits from him. The other prospect is pitcher Brody Hopkins. Not a ton to know about Hopkins yet. He was a 6th-rounder. He may or may not be a top 30 prospect for the Rays. Very interesting, though. There's a player to be named later in this trade. I wonder if it's a current prospect that the Mariners drafted this year that maybe moves after the World Series. We'll have to wait and see. Small move has landed James Paxton back with the Red Sox. I think this is very good for them. They need some length and some innings from their starting rotation. They know they're going to get that from James Paxton, assuming he stays healthy. And he has stayed relatively healthy the last couple of years. .90 ERA plus for the Dodgers this year for Paxton, so he's below league average. You know he's going to eat some innings. Going back to Boston, maybe they can help him regain that form that he had in Boston not that long ago. So we'll see what Paxton can do there. Going the other way, a lower ranked 17-year-old first base, third base type prospect moving back to the Dodgers. Not a big knock on the system, but you never know what the Dodgers are going to develop with these types of prospects. The only major leaguer for major leaguer trades that have dropped at the moment involve the Orioles and the Phillies. I think the Phillies did very good in this trade, picking up Austin Hayes from the Orioles. He's going to really help them in a platoon likely with Brandon Marsh. They needed a right-handed bat for that outfield. Hayes can play some decent defense as well. He mashes left-handed pitching. That's what the Phillies really needed. An .894 OPS versus lefties certainly proves that. The interesting thing about Hayes, I think he could be a solid hitter all around for the Phillies if given the opportunity or if injuries persist, because Hayes actually struggled at home in that big left field in Baltimore, hitting the ball there, but on the road was fairly good. So I think Hayes, if somebody does get hurt, is a nice insurance. On the other side, the Orioles, I think, really step up with Seranthony Dominguez in the bullpen. You never know what you're going to get Dominguez. He could be lights out for months at a time. Think back to the 2022 playoff run for the Phillies. Dominguez was fantastic. We'll see if the Orioles can help him recapture that form. He can be lights out in that bullpen, and I think the Orioles are going to need even more in that pen, especially with the struggles of Craig Kimbrell. Christian Pache becomes a fourth, fifth outfielder who can play some solid defense. Maybe he kind of has a bit of a platoon with Cedric Mullins, who struggled this year. We'll see how he works out in the Orioles outfield, but not a long-term guy that you're going to get a lot of value out of. The Blue Jays and Mariners have once again got together on a deal as well. Pitcher Jimmy Garcia is on his way to Seattle. I think Garcia is going to fit very well into that Mariners bullpen. Yes, the starting rotation has been fantastic for Seattle this year, but outside of Andre Munoz, the bullpen hasn't been great. Jimmy Garcia is a plug-and-play 7th, 8th inning type reliever with swing and miss stuff who's having a career year. Yes, he's just come back off of injury, but he's proven himself to be healthy and has continued to be just as effective. Garcia has a .270 ERA this year, .264 FIP, a .151 ERA plus, and a team and career high 12.6 Ks per 9. So Jimmy Garcia will fit very, very well in Seattle. Coming back to Toronto, one of the players I'm very, very interested in is Jonathan Clase, an absolute burner. Clase has been introduced to the majors this year, but has been very much struggling at the major league level. He has performed very, very well at AAA. With AAA Tacoma, he was at .856 OPS at that level, 10 home runs, 26 stolen bases. He has 70 out of 80 grade speed. Clase, in that sense, is something the Blue Jays do not have. If he can develop as a hitter, he has top of the order potential, especially with that speed. The Blue Jays don't have anybody like this, even in their system. They are a very slow, one-dimensional team. Clase could potentially add another dimension if he can hit and stick at the major league level. They also added catcher Jacob Sharp. He adds some depth to the system. The Blue Jays have really thinned out at the catcher position through the minor leagues the last few years and are going to have some openings at the major league level. Who knows if Danny Jansen is back next year? He's a free agent. Alejandro Kirk has not performed and lived it up to the billing, and Gabriel Moreno is gone to Arizona. So the Blue Jays definitely need some help at catcher. Maybe Jacob Sharp is someone who can develop for them. Just before I got to filming, there was a small deal made. The Mariners sent out reliever Ryan Stanek to the Mets. The Mets view this as an upgrade for their bullpen. The Mariners probably don't need Stanek anymore, and he really hasn't performed as highly as everybody thought. He's been much better in Houston. Since coming to Seattle, he's had his struggles. He's moving on to the Mets. We'll see what he can do with the Mets. The last trade I've seen today is the big one in my mind, with the Rays and Orioles getting together on an interdivision trade that we don't see a lot of. Zach Eflin has landed in Baltimore and is certainly going to add to that Orioles rotation. Now, Eflin hasn't been as good as he was last year. He's coming in a 5-7 record with a 4.09 ERA, but a 3.65 FIP, 95 ERA plus. The interesting thing is he's owed $18 million next year. So this is the new ownership in Baltimore that's just about to officially take over. splashing a little bit of cash for next year. Now, that probably means they're expecting Corbin Burns to go out the door. He is represented by Scott Boras. I think this is a very interesting deal in this regard. But the Orioles have Eflin for the run this year and next year, which I think will really help them and solidify that rotation in this window of opportunity to try and win a World Series. So the big step by the O's in making this deal. Going back to the Orioles, 3 very interesting prospects. First off, infielder Mac Horvath. Horvath is a 2023 second rounder. He's hitting 745 OPS at high A ball. You also have pitcher Jackson Baumeister, who's also a 2023 compensation pick round player. So between I believe it was the second and third rounds, and Baumeister is selected last year as well. He has a 3.06 ERA at high A ball. And you have outfielder Matthew Etzel. Etzel moved from high A ball to double A this year. He is not a top 30 prospect, unlikely to be a top 30 prospect with the Rays as well. So I don't think that Tampa Bay got a huge return on this, but the big thing for the Rays is the Orioles, it looks like, are taking the entire contract. There's no money going to the other way. So in that regard, it certainly is going to set up Tampa Bay for their annual rebuild and restructuring of financial monies. Now, Baltimore taking on that contract have set themselves up. I think you now have a rotation moving forward of Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin as your top 3 guys heading into a playoff series. I think you have to like where you're at, but you can guarantee the O's are looking to make some more moves. Make sure you're commenting down below your favorite trade of today. Or if you prefer, I'd love to hear what you think is going to happen at the trade deadline. I've made a couple of bold predictions. One of them I know is not going to happen now with Bo Bichette being injured, but I still think Luis Robert could end up as a Pittsburgh Pirate. Comment your bold prediction or what you think is going to happen down below. You know I always comment back to everybody here on the 3 Up 3 Down channel. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of another video here on 3 Up 3 Down. Make sure you check out some of our previous content. I did a video on the Western Canadian Baseball League you guys should be checking out, as well, of course, as our Berries series. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that thumbs up button. And until next time, take care, everyone.